According to Ben Franklin, in this world nothing can be certain except death and taxes. Well, this video covers 3 bizarre records of unconventional taxes that teach us a valuable lesson. No matter the absurdness, governments will try to find new ways to collect more money, and people will try to find ways around to avoid taxes legally. Maybe hearing about these absurd taxes people had to pay in the past would cheer you up a bit, who knows. The first one goes back to the 17th century England, where during the tenure of William III, England was looking for a way to impose a greater tax on the wealthier households and sort of spare those who were not as well off. The country already had income taxes, but it wasn't that successful as the people were unwilling to disclose their earnings. They felt it was an intrusion into their privacy. Imagine using this argument today for not paying taxes. So, how does one determine wealth in the 17th century? The king had an idea. Let's use the number of windows as a proxy for wealth. And so, a new act was enforced named Act Making Good the Deficiency of the Clipped Money. I think we can all agree that a better name could have been chosen. In essence, this meant that the more windows a house had, the wealthier the household was taken to be. Therefore, the more tax the household should pay. There were thresholds based on the number of windows, so a certain tax amount would be paid if your house had less than 10 windows. If your house had between 10 and 20, you had to pay more. As a result of this, the act later became known as the Tax on Light and Air. You might have heard the phrase daylight robbery. Well, it came from this act. Did the masses think that this was a brilliant idea? Of course not. But what are they going to do about it? Cover the windows with wooden boards? Yes, that is exactly what happened. They started covering up windows with wooden boards. And soon enough, their houses started to look like they were preparing for a zombie apocalypse. Imagine having guests over and having to explain, oh, those windows, yeah, we thought there was just too much sunlight. The outcome in the end was not more taxes collected by the government, but less vitamin D collected by most people, and in addition to that, the vulnerability to diseases such as cholera, smallpox, and typhus increased rapidly. A decline in population's health was obvious, and it led to an opposition to the windows tax. If you think that this is such a stupid tax regulation and it probably didn't last long, well, you could not have been more wrong. It lasted 155 years. Finally, in 1851, it was time for the sunshine to return. Nowadays, if you drive through any town in England and take a look at the Georgian houses, you would see some of the windows bricked up even. France, of course, gave it a shot at many things, and the country introduced the same tax in 1798, lasting almost 130 years. This is history's way of reminding us that sometimes the best things in life are free until a tax is introduced. Coming to the next bizarre tax, imagine living in a time when growing a beard could be taken as a source of revenue for the government. There used to be a thing called the beard tax. King Henry VIII in England, as well as Tsar Peter the Great in Russia, were the ones who introduced this in their respective countries. Henry VIII actually had a beard himself, so the goal was to increase the tax collected. However, in Russia there was an additional goal. Tsar Peter saw beards as a symbol of old Russian customs. He wanted to use this new tax to enforce a slight cultural change and bring Russia closer to Europe. His initial decision was to ban beards entirely, but the Russian Orthodox Church opposed this. As would commonly happen back then, the king would comply with the church. So, Tsar Peter settled for taxing the beard. Those who were paid the tax were given a beard token, known as a beard kopek, with a Russian eagle on one side and a beard and mustache on the other. If a man was caught with a beard without a token, he would face a fine or have his beard forcibly shaven. And so we get to the third bizarre tax, the brick tax. It was first imposed in 1784 by the British King George III as a measure used by the authorities to get more funds for the war taking place abroad. Those making bricks were expected to pay their tax now at a rate of 4 shillings per 1,000 bricks. The people weren't happy with this, so they looked for a way around it and decided, well, let's just start making larger bricks. But the government changed the rules and set a maximum brick size. This move had consequences on its own economy. Some smaller brick companies went out of business, timber was used more often instead of bricks, and the industrial development was negatively impacted. This bizarre tax lasted over 6 decades. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe. After all, it is free. Thank you for following it until the very end. As always, see you in the next one.